Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of For Checking TV. I'm your co-host Doug Glackey, and alongside me is my co-host Scotty Porterfield. Scotty, how we doing?
We're doing the best we can right now, Dougie. Free agent frenzy's in full swing. I'm just trying to block out all the hot moves that are be coming in here soon, and unfortunately, I don't see a lot of them happening for the Penguins. But a lot of other teams in the league are making noise right now, and it's going to be a big shakeup heading into the new season.
Yeah, yeah. And honestly, let's just go with the future so dark that you had to wear shades to block it out today.
At this point, yeah,
This this
it's
isn't good. We're gonna go over
no.
the game plan is we're gonna go over everything that happened this weekend. Um, Obviously right now it's about 10:30 a.m. On July 1st. And we'll record again tomorrow to go through everything that happens at 12. Um, as of right now, if you're a Penguins fan, uh, be afraid. Um, Anthony Beauvillier is rumored to be signing with the Penguins, and that is a guy that they honestly probably could have gotten for like on a PTO in the middle of like September. But Kyle Dubas is just going to say, the hell with it. I'm going to sign him on July 1st. And as many of us know, the people that pay attention to this very closely, the more that a player is linked to a team prior to opening a free agency, like somebody the ilk of Anthony Beauvillier, the higher probability of it of their the higher probability goes up that the AAV that it's going to come in at is just going to be an absolute atrocity. So, yeah,
That is going to really just. I mean, the Hayes trade was already one where you're already shaking your head at it, and now you have this move here with Beauvillier. It's just it makes you wonder what do if Dubas does he really think that that's going to be a competitive team, or is he saying, or is he phoning it in? Is he finally realizing, hey, we need to start building for the future? I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. You
It's
know,
really hard to tell right now.
it is hard to tell right now. And as of a few minutes ago, it's been reported by Josh Yohe of The Athletic that the Penguins are interested in signing Matt Grzelcyk. Obviously, this is a guy that was good a number of years ago, but as of right now, you know, kind of 50-50 as in terms of what his ability is. Now, obviously, the Penguins brought in David Quinn to coach the defense. Their hope is that he can rejuvenate some of the guys, get more out of Ryan Graves, get more out of Erik Karlsson, apparently on the defensive side of the puck. And maybe that works for Matt Grzelcyk, but at the same time, it's like Sidney Crosby put up 94 points last year. I don't think that we need to be like bargain binning this and trying to go for like the $3 DVDs in the Walmart bin,
Hmm.
because like they could realistically make one final run at this if they actually like get their act together. But I believe that's yet to be seen and is highly improbable at this point.
Especially with all the moves being made. I mean, we didn't touch on it yet, but obviously, POJ will not be was not tendered a contract, so he'll be walking in free agency. And you kind of
Yeah.
saw last year that he was healthy scratched several times during last year's campaign. So you could kind of see the writing was on the wall. Like
Hmm.
he clearly wasn't a part of the long-term plan. And that it is what it is at that point. Not everybody's going to stick around, but it definitely seems like, with the signings that he is making, it appears that maybe they're coming to the realization that it's time to move forward.
Yeah. And I'm going to use this as a way to transition into a lot of the trades that happened this weekend. Obviously, you hinted at it. Kevin Hayes and a second round pick to the Penguins for future considerations. Um, cool of them to get a second. Obviously, Kevin Hayes, like he's still a competent player. He still brings something to the table. It's just, this reminds me very much of the Jeff Carter trade whenever he came over from LA, where there's a certain time frame you need to follow with it, and if you don't follow it through, you're going to get stuck with what you got stuck with the last 2 years with Jeff Carter.
Literally one of the first things I thought whenever whenever that deal was made, I was like, welcome back, Jeff Carter.
Yeah,
They basically got that left-handed version of him now with Kevin Hayes. And
same dollar
I
value too.
mean, pretty much, yeah. It's like Big Jeff never left,
Yeah,
honestly. It's just
yeah, yeah. I
I think
mean,
last year 29 points in 79 games last year. It's not going to be the production that you're looking for. I assume they're going to try and use him as a third line center, but we'll see what happens with that. And
mhm.
again, another move where you're just looking at it like, okay, this is what we're going to end up doing.
Yeah. I mean, obviously he still has um, well above average passing ability. That might be something that could be helpful when it comes to trying to unlock Valtteri Puustinen and help fully develop his game at the NHL level. He might be a guy that could really benefit from playing on that potential third line with Kevin Hayes. And obviously, we don't know what's going to happen in the next 90 minutes, but one would assume that the third line to open the year would probably be Drew O'Connor, Kevin Hayes, and Valtteri Puustinen, which I'm more than okay with. I think the expectation is they're going to try and get somebody to come play with Sid, very similar to like what happened with certain guys last year when their markets crashed. Like for great example was when Jason Zucker's market crumbled and he took that 1 year deal in Arizona. Um,
Mhm.
like they're going to be looking for somebody like that. Like, hey, come play with great players, come beef up your numbers, and if we're out of it at the deadline, we're going to trade you with 50% retained and get a return out of you. You know,
Could end up being
which
Zucker. You never know.
I mean, I would actually be perfectly fine bringing back Jason Zucker. And this was probably a point I was going to bring up some point down the line in this recording was I'd bring him back because, he has that bunting type of mentality of creating chaos, and my thought process is if my hockey team's going to be god awful for the next for the final 2 to 3 years of all these guys being together, at least make it interesting.
Yeah, give us
You
a little
know?
entertainment value, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Um, no, but I think the Hayes trade is fine. It was good that they got a second back. Um, because they at up to this point they didn't have a second in 25, due to the fact that they traded it for Carlson or traded it somewhere in the Carlson trade. So that's going to be good for them. And on top of it, it's going to be a high second. You know, um,
Hmm.
Dubas. I feel like Dubas and Nick Pryor are dangerous with a high second. I mean, look at what they were able to do this weekend with being able to snag Tanner Howe. Like that was a
That
really
was
good grab for them because he's one of those guys that had a first round grade, obviously had experience playing in with the Regina Pats with Connor Bedard.
mhm.
And he's one of those players that he plays that physical style, kind of reminds you of a Michael Bunting, Chris Kunitz type, that if he develops, he's going to be a really good like utility middle six forward that's just going to be at the front of the net, um, making stuff happen.
Yeah, definitely. I
So,
was watching some highlights of him this weekend too, and he seems to have a pretty good shot as well. Just
oh yeah.
they even had I saw some highlights. He was set up on the half wall for the power play, so it
Hmm.
seems like he can be a jack of all trades of sorts, and being a Swiss Army knife in the NHL is a good thing. So looking forward to seeing what they can do with him going forward.
Most definitely. And moving forward into some of the other trades that happened during the draft weekend, this is kind of a twofold thing. Logan Thompson got traded from Vegas to the Capitals. Um, this is a good get for Washington because obviously there's going to be a little bit of a goaltending battle in camp between him and Hunter Shepard for who wins the backup role. But if Logan Thompson does come out on the losing side of that, his cap hit is below what the um, average league minimum AAV is this year because
Mm.
he was on a multi-year extension years prior. So they could put him on waivers and just stash him in Hershey if they want to. But I ultimately believe that Logan Thompson's probably gonna end up winning that job. And honestly, though, like when you think of it, him and Charlie Lindgren, that's a very sneaky 1A, 1B.
Yeah, two righties as well. That doesn't happen very often anymore either.
That's a great point. Yeah. Yeah,
They
that is
both
kind
catch
of
righties.
interesting. Yeah. And Washington's kind of going for it, man. They're retooling this thing on the fly. They're making a lot of sneaky moves. From what I gather, they're not done yet. And that's gonna be something to watch over the next um bit of time. Also, something to keep in mind that we'll cycle back to tomorrow. Rear Admiral from Spit and Chicklets just tweeted basically that it's official that Matt Grzelcyk's going to Pittsburgh. So, um, there you go. Hopefully, the money in the term isn't horrible. You know, moving forward, fingers crossed, definitely. Moving forward, Vegas needed a backup goalie, so they traded for Akira Schmid and Alex Holtz. They're both bound for Vegas, and going in return is Paul Cotter and a third round pick. Um, good little move for both sides. Obviously, Vegas has the chance to hopefully fully unlock Alex Holtz, former seventh overall pick that really never got a full opportunity in New Jersey, mostly due in part to how Lindy Ruff was at coaching young players. Um, I think that was something that they struggled with, and for New Jersey, it's a good get for them. Paul Cotter is one of the better or one of the more underrated fourth line players in the league. He's going to really make up what they lost in losing Miles Wood to free agency last summer. And he had 233 hits. So like he's just gonna be causing a lot of chaos down there. Um, obviously, I think this is a good spot for him because they have a lot of good play drivers in their bottom six. And I think that that's just going to help keep him afloat and allow him to just play his game and do what he does.
Yeah, definitely, and especially too, they also just lost Kevin Ball in a trade in that trade as well, in another previous trade too. So now you're gonna have to. So now that'll help shore up their bottom six. And like you said, for
Yeah.
whatever reason, Holtz didn't work out in New Jersey. Vegas, for whatever reason, seems to be a good place for players to turn their games around. So I think that, maybe this is a second breath of life for him, and hopefully he can get things figured out. And of course, you have Schmid as well to shore up your backup positions. So it seems like it was a fair trade for both sides. And I think that, both teams are going to benefit from this one.
Yeah, definitely. Another interesting thing going on, Tampa Bay was clearing a bunch of cap, you know. Tanner Janot got cap dumped to LA. That's going to be a good bottom six option for them. And more importantly, Utah, they're going for it.
They
They
are not messing
traded,
around this year.
no, they're not messing around. They traded JJ Mosier, Connor Geeky, a seventh this year or in this year's most recent draft, and a second next year to the Tampa Bay Lightning in exchange for Mikhail Sergachev. And then they went out and traded 2 seconds to Utah or to New Jersey for John Marino. That is a huge, huge upgrade from what we've seen with that franchise in the past. Um, Obviously, they have that great young core right now with like Logan Cooley, Barrett Hayton, that group of guys. Obviously, Schmaltz and Keller have been with that franchise for a while. Um, so it's actually great to see that that this organization have an owner that actually cares and actually wants to make the team better. Because they also extended Yusuf Valimaki and they also extended Sean Dursey. So 2 years, 2 million AAV for Valimaki and 4 years, 6 million AAV for Dursey. Um, I mean, your top four being Sergachev, Dursey, Valimaki, and Marino, that's pretty dangerous. And from what I gather, they're dipping their toes into the Brandon Montour market. So
Hmm.
they're not done. Um, John Marino might be chefing it up on the third pairing by the end of today.
I really want to applaud Utah for getting after it early. I think,
Oh
they
yeah.
realized that if we're gonna have, they want to get the fans to buy in, they want to have people show up to games and everything. Best thing you can do right there is field a good team, is get people interested in this club. And to
Mm-hmm.
show that you're serious about doing that and actually going out and getting the players that you need to do that is huge. Like you said, they've already, acquired 2/3 of their defensive core. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just great moves by them. And like you said, they're probably not done either. So I like what I'm seeing in Utah right now, and hopefully that they keep that trend going and maybe they'll be a competitive team this year. I just don't like the name of the club right now. I think they got to figure out something something soon.
Yeah, I agree. No, I think that they're gonna be sneaky. Because they already had a good goalie tandem to begin with. Connor Ingram and Karel Vejmelka really play well off of each other. And I think with this group and obviously the potential for them to add more money or add more of their bottom six, or more to like their forward group, I think the sky's going to be the limit. It makes you wonder like if Tijaginola is going to play in the NHL this year. If there's potential for that to happen, that becomes a very, very interesting forward group with all of those young guys playing together.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it seems
Mhm.
like they just again they're making their push for it. I think they want to be competitive right away. And I actually forgot about it again until you mentioned him. I mean, he's obviously a huge acquisition at the deadline. He was lighting it up in junior last year. So to think about what he could do with a Clayton Keller or Matthias Maselli and all these other guys they have there, it could be very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what Utah ends up cooking up this year.
Yeah. Um, and then one of the wildest trades of the draft, especially like for me knowing the type of player that this guy is. Obviously, I watched him a lot in Hershey, but the Capitals trading Beck Malenstein to the Sabres for a second round pick. Um, that is highway robbery for the Capitals. Obviously, they used it to take Lane Hutson's brother, Cole Hudson. So they got a great, like, elite defensive prospect out of it. The thing with Malenstein is he's only like a fourth line player. The impacts at the NHL level are not great, but obviously he was a great player in Hershey for the first half of that back-to-back Calder Cup run. So that might be an interesting get for the fourth line of the Sabres, who are obviously going to need to make some replacements on their fourth line as it looks right now. Zemgus Girgensons is going to be departing the organization and walking in free agency as of 12 o'clock this afternoon, which is going to be
Hmm.
hilarious. It's going to be actually an interesting thing to monitor because he's been playing for that team since he was 18.
Forever.
Like
He's
it
been
feels
there
like
forever.
it feels like he's been there for like ever, like literally forever. Um,
Was he an all-star one year? Or am I
yeah,
thinking
dude,
of someone else?
they voted
It's
Zemgus
either him or
Girgensons into the
Grigorenko.
no, they
Yeah.
voted Girgensons into the All-Star game one year for memes because some Latvian rapper made a song about him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Say, I remember, like, he was the most random. It was just a random all-star. I'm like, how did this guy get selected? I hadn't even heard of him. Then all of a sudden he's Buffalo's rep in the All-Star game. But
Yeah, he
yeah, he's been there forever. I don't even remember when he wasn't there with that team.
yeah, he walked so John Scott could run.
Amen.
So, um,
Amen.
yeah, Alex Texier traded from Columbus to St. Louis. It's a good little top nine grab for St. Louis. Obviously, who knows if they're going to be competitive this year, but you know, that's a good grab for them. I always thought that he's an underrated bottom six player. I always felt like he gives more than what it was let on. Especially in Columbus whenever he was playing. Obviously, there was a time there where he was playing over in France to deal with some family stuff, but he made his return to the NHL last year and seemed to put up decent numbers in a handful of games. There's really not much else to add on it. But now we're getting into like the meat and potatoes of like these trades with Gensel's rights getting traded to Tampa Bay for a third round pick that this year. Um, as of right now, it is official. 7 years, 9 million for Jake Gensel in Tampa Bay. Um, Pretty much means that Stamkos is hitting the market and he's going to go somewhere else. So that's going to be a very, very interesting transition for Tampa Bay. I'm not 100% sure what they're cooking down there. But we'll see if it works. You know, it takes some balls to do what they've done.
But I credit them for doing it. I mean, I don't want to. I mean, nothing against a Malkin or Letang or a Brian Rust or any of those guys, but it's like you gave them money that you could have gave to Jake Gensel,
Yeah, true.
and now you see a team like Tampa who's looking at like, hey, do we want to be in their boat? Do we want to stay loyal to a guy who's not going to get better than he already is? Nobody has a career
Right.
year at 35 unless you're Barry Bonds. So
Yeah.
it just makes sense to, hey, let's, thanks for everything you've done. Your number is going to be up in the rafters whenever you retire, but we still have a chance to be a competitive team, and we're gonna put the best team out there that we can. And one of the best players you could have on your team is Jake Gensel, because when it
Mhm.
comes to playoff performers, there aren't many guys that are better than him.
Yeah. Um, it's going to be interesting to see who gets Stamkos. Um, Obviously, I'm not sure if you can hear my phone's buzzing like crazy in the
I've
background.
you
Um,
were locked in. I'm like, what's he looking? I was like, it's like well, I don't know what you. I was like, he's locked in on something. I don't know what he was looking at.
yeah. As of right now, it's looking like Nashville for Stamkos.
Hmm,
It's a very
okay.
interesting look. Um, Another underrated depth trade for New Jersey, Jonathan Kovacevic for a fourth round pick. This is a really good third pairing option for them. Very physical two-way defenseman and had a nice little career renaissance in Montreal last year. And look for him to be a depth option or a third pairing option, kind of replacing what they had with Kevin Ball. Um, he's making pretty close to league min. He's making under 1 million, I believe, and that's going to be a good get for them, especially to help like segue the gap between like the younger guys like Luke Hughes, Simone Nemec, guys like that. Help give them some stability on the back end as a potential deep partner. Um, Chris Tanev's rights got traded to Toronto for Max Ellis in a seventh. And as of right now, Chris Tanev has been signed to a 6-year contract in Toronto. It's going to be 6 years. It's coming in at around at 4.5 million on the dot. So good get for them. I feel like they needed that presence. I feel like that's a presence they haven't had since Jake Muzzin got hurt. Um, so I think that's a good grab for them. As of right now, it's rumored that they're in on Oliver Ekman Larson as well. I'm not really sure what they're cooking there with that, but like OEL just won a cup, so who knows?
Yeah, value's definitely going to be up. I think that Toronto's really prioritizing the defensive core, obviously locking up Liljegren yesterday as well. So
Hmm.
you got your right side taken care of pretty much now. I think that it's looking like Toronto's getting everybody shirt up that they want to be. I think Domi re-signed yesterday too, so they're trying to keep that most of that team together because in all honesty, the team wasn't bad last year, but again, you're just not they're never going to beat Boston, so it's just them trying to field a competitive team and doing the best they can, and I think shoring up that defensive core is going to be a good way to do it.
Yeah. And while we're on the topic of Toronto, came out last night that Nick Robertson has requested a trade out of there. Um, this is a dude that like every team, like think about the California teams with where they're at. Think about like the Senators, the Blackhawks. They should be pounding their fists on the table right now, trying to figure out what is needed to go get this guy out of Toronto. Because the talent is there, the upside is there. Yes, he is undersized, but he's so creative with the puck that I, honest to God, believe the moment that he gets opportunity, he's going to end up on a similar level as his brother.
I mean, he definitely has that potential. I've always admired Robertson's game, and I'm just wondering,
Oh
like,
yeah.
why does he never get a chance in Toronto? You'd feel like with a team that, is always getting, ridiculed for being top heavy, it would be nice to have a depth piece like him around.
Mhm.
And it never made sense to me why he never got the full the full the treatment that he should have gotten, I guess. I don't know if it was just a Sheldon Keefe thing or what the issue was, but it seemed like he just never got the chance to prove himself in Toronto. And he's doing what's best for him. He's saying, if you guys don't appreciate me, I'm going to go somewhere that will. And like you said, teams should absolutely be knocking on Toronto's door right now with everything they have to offer.
Yeah, definitely. And this might be something that becomes a interesting Winnipeg thing because they could just flip him for Rutger McGroarty
Hmm.
if he'd want to sign in Toronto, you know, and that's going to be something to monitor today as well. I think that that's going to be something that comes down the pipe here, and that's going to see itself through. Is Rutger McGroarty getting himself shopped out of Winnipeg?
Mm.
Um, Another small piece of business to uh, take care of. We said about Domi and Liljegren getting extended. Patrick Kane got a 1 year, $4 million deal in Detroit. Um, it's a good spot for him. He's probably just going to ride it out there. Like, cool, good for him. Sam Reinhart, they got it in before midnight last night. 8 years, 8.5 million. Obviously, no state tax in Florida, but that's going to be a very, very interesting contract extension that's going to reset the market. And like, if I'm looking at that and I'm Mitch Marner's team right now, I'm freaking out. Like, I'm panicking
Oh,
because this dude put up 50 goals and got below 9 million.
yeah. Yeah, that's definitely going to be a concern for them because, I mean, you can't give Marner a raise. You
Not
can't.
not
I
with
don't
this
think
precedent, no.
no. They got to be they're going to be I don't know if would he get 10? Would he even get 10 in Toronto?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing that
That's the thing.
makes
That's
this
what I'm saying.
so
Like it's a really
yeah.
interesting question. Like I don't know what's going to happen with that situation now because I mean obviously all the money's locked in on Matthews and rightfully so. The dude almost had a 70 goal campaign.
Hmm.
But outside of that, I mean Mitch Marner he hasn't really. I mean, when you really think about it, has he actually lived up to the contract that he signed all those years ago? I don't think so. I
I
don't
mean,
think he has lived up to it.
from a points production standpoint, I would say he has, but like the whole big picture of it all, probably not.
He's never had a 100-point season,
True, but like he's been in the high
not once.
90s. You
That's
know,
fair. But
I
again,
don't know.
if you're my highest paid player, I'm expecting triple digits minimum.
Or at least
And to
30
see
or
that
40 goals.
yeah, which he
Yeah.
doesn't do. So it's
No.
just like, it's just,
No.
it's not working out right now. And I mean, I didn't like the comment either he had at the end of the year about how they're viewed as gods in the city and stuff like that. It seemed like a very arrogant thing to say as well. And I don't know, Marner's been rubbing me the wrong way lately. And I'm sure this Sam Reinhart deal is going to potentially humble him and his team going forward, but we'll just have to wait
Yeah.
and see what happens. That's a year away.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Definitely something to monitor, but also like a story for another day type of deal. But
Yeah.
the last big storyline I want to go through today is all the non-tenders and the buyouts, specifically of young players on the blue line. There's a lot of good value to be had today, in guys that were non-tendered or bought out, both at forward and on defense. Just to go through a few, Nate Schmidt bought out by Winnipeg. That could be a good second, third pairing option for a team. Eric Brandstrom, non-tendered by Ottawa. The underlying stuff looks really, really good on him. I think that that could be a great third pairing option for any team, but also if I was Kyle Dubas, I would be looking at this, but not knowing what we know now with Grzelcyk potentially landing in Pittsburgh, that's definitely off the table. Um,
Yeah.
Kyle Capabianco, um, he would be a good depth piece for any team. Very similar to what the Penguins did last year with Ryan Shea.
Mm.
He has great AHL numbers, great AHL player, could easily be a decent, serviceable, low tier 7 or 8D for a team that's trying to stay cap compliant and is close to the cap ceiling. Um, Adam Bolkvist bought out by the Blue Jackets. Him as well as Jake Bean have been non-tendered or was non-tendered. They're both walking from Columbus today. That would be an interesting look for a couple of rebuilding teams that are looking for a defenseman who is very talented with the puck, but at the same time in his own zone, it's kind of an adventure. Maybe you shelter him in a third pairing role and you let him just run your second power play and let him put up a bunch of points. Um,
Yeah.
Blake Lizotte, non-tendered by the Kings. Um, really good fourth line PK possession god. Um, if I were obviously keep it local, if I were Kyle Dubas, I would be looking at this guy to fill my fourth line left wing void and run
Hmm.
Lizotte, Eller, and Achari. But this is a good get for any team. I think a lot of the West Coast teams will be looking at him like Anaheim and teams like that. Um, Speaking of Anaheim, Urho Vakanainen and Max Jones, both non-tendered by the Ducks. Max Jones would be another good bottom six option for a lot of the West Coast teams that want to play that run and gun style. Um, Urho Vakanainen, he would be a good reclamation project for a third pairing left shot D. Akira Schmid has been non-tendered by the um, Golden Knights, but they're still working on a deal that would be lower than what his QO was going to come in at. And probably the most shocking move of the day was probably Dallas non-tendering Niels Lundqvist, knowing that they gave up a first round pick for him. That could be a good option for a second or a third pairing on a team that needs help on the blue line, but also is looking to try and rekindle some value out of that guy who looked to be like the next big thing as a Rangers prospect.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think just Dallas has so many options at their back end to begin with. They just, you can only afford to feed so many people. I think Lundqvist just was going to be the odd man out at the end of the day. But like you said, it's easy enough for some team to appreciate that guy, and someone's going to take a chance on him, and it's going to be. I think it could benefit for them just to shore up their defensive depth. I think that can be a lot of help for a lot of teams going forward.
Definitely. Nashville, dude. Nashville's getting busy.
What do they do now?
We're like an hour and 10 minutes away, and they are like right at the table for
Hmm.
Stamkos, Marchessault, and Brady Shea.
Wow.
That team might be back.
They just might be actually. Yeah. I mean, they
Yeah,
had a decent run last year, honestly. I know they only made it to was it the semifinal, I think?
yeah.
Or
But they
yeah,
might be back,
so
you know,
they
because you
might
got to
be. Yeah,
keep
say
you, yeah, you
they
got to
could be
keep in
definitely.
mind they still got to get a return out of Askarov if he doesn't want to be there.
Right.
So, and I know that there's apparently something out there that David Yerechek requested a trade out of Columbus. So, like, could
Hmm.
we see a nice little young player Yerechek for a Askarov swap? Both teams addressing key needs. Because, like, real
Just
talk,
might.
Columbus would be insane to not go get a Askarov, knowing what they have going on with Elvis right now.
Yeah. So
Because
they
they could
definitely
just
need the
ride that
goaltending
thing
now.
out into the sunset while he's still on his ELC.
Easily.
Yeah,
Easily.
it's literally spitting image of the Steve Mason Bobrovsky situation from like 10 years ago. Wild how
Wow.
that works.
That's a
All right. So
literally.
anything else major you want to touch on? Obviously, quick housekeeping note that I don't think I mentioned. Um, P.O. Joseph is going to walk to free agency. He's not going to be back with the Penguins from what it seems. So we'll see how that goes. You know, it's gonna like he's one of those players, like he was fun to watch. Sucks to lose him, you know. Obviously, like he probably wasn't like as amazing as people portray him at points, but like he was fun to watch. He was one of my guys that I really liked. So
Yeah. POJ was definitely a good death piece, and would have been nice to have him to keep him around and see how much he could have grown as a player. And obviously he had a good relationship with Tane, and I'm sure there was a bit of a mentorship going on there. But at the end of the
definitely.
day, uh, Dubas decided to move in a different direction, and we gotta wish the guy the best and hope that he finds success elsewhere because I feel like he has the potential to be a solid top four defenseman for a team, and he just needs the time to prove it because sometimes there were times in Pittsburgh where he just didn't get it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Um, yeah, no, but we'll cycle back tomorrow after all the craziness happens, and hopefully, tomorrow isn't me screaming into a mic about like how bad July 1st was for the Penguins. But as it sits right
We can
now,
only hope.
I think we're trending in that direction.
Definitely seems that way.
All right, man. All right. So this was another episode of For Checking TV. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at For Checking TV. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.